Take a walk around the world. Wonder what it do me any good. Till I get some money in my pocket, then I guess just have to walk around the neighborhood. But I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad. So bad, that desire's all I ever had. Wanna take a ride up in the sky, watch the aeroplanes just pass me by. Wanna see a little gelato, take the time to show all of these people what it means to be alive. I wanna be good so bad. I wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. That desire's all I ever had. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Liz. And good afternoon to our American friends. Good evening if there's anyone in the UK on this meeting, I don't know. And my name is Simon Mason. It's quite weird because obviously, well, not obviously actually, a lot of my recovery in the pandemic times has been done on Zoom. And I got told off by someone, you know them, and I am a member of the 12-step program, but there's some of those people need to shut the fuck up. And I got told off for having my surname in my little screen there because I'd just forgotten to anonymize it. And I kind of got into a bit of a fight with this person. I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. And then they launched into this triad about, you know, anonymity being the spiritual foundation. I'm like, look, love, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. And then they asked for me to be removed from the meeting. And I thought, you know what, whatever else goes on in my day today, I'm not as fucked up as that idiot. And that's what I got from that particular meeting. So you can always get something from a meeting, you know, even if it is just a bit of schadenfreude at someone else's stupidity. So my name is Simon Mason. I am a recovering addict. I'm an author, I'm a writer, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. I can be a bit of a dickhead sometimes as well. The biggest problem that I've got in my life right here, right now, is what to do with my lockdown haircut. It's been driving me nuts for days. And my wife's getting sick of me talking about it. She has said if I get a ponytail, she'll divorce me. So the ponytail option is gone.
It's David Brent.
I don't know if you guys have ever watched the UK show The Office. It's a bit David Brent, she thinks. Because, you know, I'm a middle-aged man in a band and it would just be too close to that kind of, you know. Anyway, that's the biggest problem I've really got today, if I'm honest, you know, is like what to do with my... And, you know, I'm like, I am a middle-aged man. I've still got some fucking hair. and some teeth. I feel quite fortunate. So thank you for having me on the show. Is it a show? It is a show. Yeah, thank you for having me here. I guess what I really want to talk a little bit about is addiction and recovery and my experience of those things. How life was, how life is, how life might be in the future. Who knows about that? I don't. So the how life was bit, let me just get out of the way. One of my favorite bands is a band called The Hold Steady. They're American. They're originally from Minneapolis, St. Paul, but of late have been in New York for a long time. They've been around nearly 20 years. They do great guitar riffs. Really great guitar riffs. They're kind of informed by a band called Husker Du and the Replacements and that kind of stuff. They're fucking great. And the singer and songwriter is a guy called Craig Finn, and I think he's a genius. And there's a lyric in one of their songs where they sing, it started recreational, it ended kind of medical, it came up alongside me and it tightened up its tentacles. And that's a pretty good description of my association with drugs. Started recreational and ended medical, because that's kind of what it was. And the recreational part was fantastic. It was amazing. I had some of the best times of my life and your life probably as well, using drugs. And, I'm not one of these people that wants to sort of, that expression, my worst day in recovery is still better than my best day using. Fuck off with that, man. I don't know what you were using, because that's just stupid. That just, when I hear people say that, I'm just like, don't laugh. That's their truth. But, I don't know what you were using, So yeah, I was dabbling in the world of drugs, from quite a young age. As a teenager, I did that fairly common thing of weed, pot, whatever you want to call it, and alcohol and speed and LSD. The actual truth about my relationship with LSD is that the first one was the best one. I mean, I took another 500, but not all at the same time, over a number of years. The first one was the best one. And I'd also say, unfortunately for me, that the first time I smoked crack was also the best time I smoked crack. And they're both, that happened in Los Angeles, in Venice Beach, in the late 80s, if that. Maybe they just had better crack in Venice Beach in the late 80s than I had anyway. Well, in fact, they did have better crack because they had better coke. I've had this argument with my British friends about cocaine in Europe. It's rubbish. You guys have the best blow, fucking hands down. I mean, if you're at Pablo Escobar, why would you spend all that money shipping good coke to the other side of the world when the Americans will gobble it up? You know what I mean? Don't send it to us. You guys fucking have it. Just chuck it over the wall. Anyway, my point with that stuff is that the actual reality for me is that the good times with any substance with me were actually quite brief. They were really, really good, and when they were good, they were really, really good. But the sad reality for me is that the minute they stopped being the best thing in my life, I'd kind of move on to the next one, or a combination of all that kind of stuff. And I was just forever trying to find that first time experience again. The first time I did coke was in Los Angeles in 1986. I was 18 years old. I jumped on an aeroplane and ended up there. I found this British pub in Santa Monica, which is no longer there. It's not the King's Head. My friend Margaret laughing there. It was called the George. It was the bottom of Santa Monica Boulevard, and they'd let me in because I was British. And some guy gave me some coke one week. I'd been working for him. I was working in construction on a building site. He went, "Yeah, about your wages, I don't have them, but I do have this 8-ball of coke if you want." And I was like, "Sweet." I won't need to eat if I've got that, so I won't need any wages, right? I'll just do that. And then he gave me the keys to his car after we'd just done loads of lines of coke in the pub that I'd been drinking in all afternoon. And I took off down the Pacific Coast Highway, coked off my tits, listening to Hollywood Nights by Bob Seger, which is the best song you could fucking be listening to at 18 on cocaine for the first time whilst driving along the Pacific Coast Highway. It's like, I don't believe in God, but if there is one, he's fucking looking after me right now, because this is fucking, and them Hollywood Nights. And it's a great song, actually, still a great song. I listened to it yesterday, and it reminds me of me being 18, coked off my fucking face, driving up the Pacific Coast Highway in 1986 in a Nissan ZX1, I think it was, thinking this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Most of my friends are back in England on welfare, or the dole as we call it over here.
in a shed at the end of their garden with a porno mag and a bag of weed. You know, I'm fucking doing it here, and the fact that 2 years later I was in jail in LA, you know, having been arrested with an ounce of pot and a bunch of crack in a stolen car, I didn't know that was going to happen. You know, I didn't know that was going to happen. In my book, which I think a couple of people have read, there it is. You can get it on Kindle, by the way. It's not available. I was advised at the time of writing to not write much about my adventures in America, because at some point I'd like to come back and visit and hang out in America. I really, really would. I haven't been there since 1991, and I was at that point I was living in Atlanta in Georgia, and I was in a band, and that didn't end well either. I got arrested quite a lot, and I think I'm still on the run technically. I know there is this thing called a statute of limitations, and if I went to see a lawyer, they might let me in. But I'd really like to go back to LA, and I'd really like to go back to those places, because I'm at that age where, you know, my youth is a long time ago, and I have this kind of real romanticism about it. In the same way as, you know, I listen to music that I listened to when I was a kid, and it takes me right back there. So one day, who knows, maybe they'll let me in again. And you know, what I'd really like is for my band to come and play, and maybe that'll happen. That would be great. So yeah, the start of all of my using really took off in America. That's where it happened, because we didn't have very good drugs here at the time. However, when I came back from LA at the end of 1988, I weighed, I don't know what the translation from English stones into pounds was, but I'd been smoking crack every day for like 8 months, so I was kind of skinny. And I came home to the UK and went to my mum's place, and she opened the door, and she hadn't seen me for 2 years, and she just started crying. And then I started crying, but we were crying about different things. I think she was crying because her boy was like emaciated, and I was crying because I had no crack left. And I was in this little bumfuck town in England where you couldn't get any crack. So, you know, that's what I was crying about. And I went to see the family doctor a couple of days later, and he said, "What's the problem?" I'm like, "I wasn't hoping you'd be able to tell me what the problem was, because I don't really know what the problem is. I just want to kill myself. I feel suicidal." And he asked me kind of what I'd been doing for the previous few years. And I told him the story about Hollywood Nights in the Nissan and how great that was. And then I told him that I just got out of jail in LA, and I'd been smoking a lot of crack and taking a lot of acid and mescaline and peyote all at the same time, which I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think if you went to like the indigenous Indians in South America and went, "Should you take crack with your peyote or your ayahuasca?" they'd probably say no, you know. But anyway, you know what we're like, right? If it's in front of me, I'm going to do it. Anyway, so the doctor said to me, and he was like, if you imagine, I don't know what your image of some sort of stuffy English person would be, you know, like Hugh Grant or someone like that. Hugh Grant with no hair and a beard. So I told him what I'd been up to, and he said, well, he leaned across the table like that, you know, like they do, like when someone's going to tell you something really important, like I am now leaning into the screen, and looked sort of over his glasses at me like that, like I'm doing that. And he said, I suggest you stop taking drugs, drink less, and get a job. And that was it. That was his medical conclusion to my problem in 1988. And then he said, oh, and there's this thing called Narcotics Anonymous. You might want to check that out. So I went to the pub straight after this piece of divine wisdom from the good doctor about drinking less, not taking drugs, and getting a job. I went to the pub, and within an hour, I'd formed a band. I'd met someone in the pub, and I was sat there drinking myself like to a coma, writing self-piteous lyrics on the back of this beer mat. And this fellow walked in, and I knew him, and I knew his brother, and he said, what are you doing? I said, oh, I don't know whether to kill myself or not. And he went, oh, you should meet my brother. He's a fucking lunatic like you. And we formed a band. So I went home that night thinking, I haven't taken any drugs today because I couldn't get any. I haven't drunk as much as I was drinking. And I've got a job because I'm going to be a rock and roll star in a band. So actually, I thought I'd done pretty good. That was in 1989. I didn't get clean till 2006. So I still had some way to go. And in 1989 in England or in Britain, and we were just cottoning on to this wonderful new drug called ecstasy, which was still legal, I think, in America at that time. You guys are so ahead, so far thinking. And so the idea of, I just thought to myself, well, if I stop smoking crack and just take loads of ecstasy, that's got to be a good thing, right? So that's what I did for quite a long time. I mean, what can I say? Taking ecstasy and dressing up in dungarees and looking like some sort of weird, creepy version of fucking Noddy, I don't know if that translates to American, you know, what seemed to be to me a lot more fun than actually sitting in jail in Los Angeles, which is, you know, what I'd just come from. But the jail on a Friday night in LA, it was quite a scary place to be, you know, for me, because A, I'm a coward, and B, the last time I'd been put in there, I had really long hair and I was wearing these like pointy boots and a silk jacket and these really tight jeans. And people were like looking at me going, that's my tea, you know, very, it was, anyway. So being on ecstasy was much more fun than that. And then a couple of years after doing a lot of pills for a long time and realizing that I didn't actually like dance music very much, didn't stop me trying to dance to it. And I wanted to sort of rediscover my integrity as a serious musician and a writer. I thought that the way forward was to just start taking heroin. That seemed to be the next logical thing to do. In much the same way as some people are, I guess, when they're doing their shopping in the shopping mall, are looking at the tins of soup and going, no, I'm not going to have chicken soup today. I'm going to have some of that oxtail. I'll just get onto that. That it really was that simple. It was just like, there was no, oh, that might be really bad. And you know, that it just seemed like the next thing to do. I'd done everything else. You know what I mean? I'd got to that point where I'd taken every other substance there was to take, or that I knew it was in existence. And then I went to see my friend, and he was a junkie, and he gave me a hit of heroin, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. Happy days. That's it. I'm good to go. You know, everything in life just kind of made perfect sense. I was like, sweet. I don't have any problems now. This is it. You know, this is the way forward. And for a little while, it was. It simplified things, you know, made life really easy. All I've got to do is find some of this every day, and that's it, right? Everything else is irrelevant. You know, I was talking to someone the other day who is contemplating the idea of stopping using. And they're really honest about it. They're far more honest than I was. You know, they're kind of, they're weighing up the pros and cons, and they are, you know, a functioning addict. They have a family and they've got a business and money. They identify themselves as an addict. They don't have a problem with that. And they're in this kind of phase of contemplating what to do. And they've asked my advice. And I said to them, you know what, I don't know if I'm qualified to give you any advice, because the end of my story, as far as the drugs went, was stop using or fucking die. It wasn't like stop using or not have that holiday with the kids to Bermuda this year, you know, or not get a new car, or not go shopping, you know, and that's these guys' options. You know, he's one of those people that seems to be able to slow down when he needs to slow down, but still is addicted. You know, like I'm one of them junkies that I don't leave something for the morning. You know what I mean? I used to know people that could leave a hit for the morning. I don't know how people can do that. I really never had the capacity to do that. If I'm in a room with drugs, we're doing them. That's it, until they're all fucking gone. And tomorrow can fuck itself because it never comes anyway. Or never, you know. And I'll deal with tomorrow. But if we've got drugs, we're taking them, and then we'll take all the things that look like drugs, a little bit, and we'll try all that stuff. Whatever's on the carpet, you know. I'll get my syringe, you know, and I'll fill it with, you know, I'll go for my Lucky filter that I've been drawing up out of for the last 2 years, and I'll find some sort of like beige wood in the apartment I'm in, and I'll hold the filter up next to the beige wood so it looks like it's brown. Ah, sweet, got some magic heroin. That's fucking me, you know what I mean? The people that can save something for tomorrow, wow. I mean, if I could do that, I wouldn't have to quit. Really, I think that's it. I wouldn't have to stop using, because I'd be like, oh, you know what? I'll save some crack for tomorrow. I've got to do the shopping. I'll have a bit whilst I'm, you know, anyway. So I said to this guy, look, I can't really advise you on what to do. He said, well, how's your life now? And I said, it's better. You know, my life is infinitely much better than it was when I used drugs and when I drank, because I was very good at drinking. I mean, I could drink a lot, but I was a bit of a tit, to be honest with you. It kind of just, you know, it never ended well. It is the truth for me with alcohol. You know, I was the same with alcohol as I am with literally everything else. It's just, we'll just drink and we'll keep going. And how I survived that, I don't know, you know, to be kind of serious really for a minute. I don't know about you guys. I've been to a lot of fucking funerals in recovery, a lot. And I've stopped going. You know, I've just stopped going. I mean, no one can go in the last year because we're not allowed to, but I've been to far too many funerals, you know, for a 50-year-old man. And I've only been to 2 weddings, and one of them was mine, you know. So to sort of be serious for a little while, I don't know if that is the point of this, but there is, I guess there is, you know, is that I'm really much happier in recovery than I was for 80% of my using. It's roughly 80%. I don't know what the exact statistics are, but it's probably something like that. Maybe 75%, I don't know. I'm much happier, because my heart really and my soul has always been about wanting to feel free and to be the kind of rock and roll dude and to be able to do what I want when I want, you know, without upsetting too many people in the process of doing that. And drugs at first kind of really fueled that sense of, yeah, man, well, but ultimately they took it all away. You know, I wasn't free to do anything. I was chained to it. At best, when I was on substitute medication, I was just chained to a pharmacy, you know, to a chemist every fucking day. That was as good as it was going to get. And you know, I know friends that are on substitute medication, and that's cool. That's their thing, you know. And if they stay there on that for the rest of their lives, that's their choice. You know, for me, I wanted fucking shot of all of it. You know, when I finally got clean in 2006, I was like, you know what, I don't want to go to the chemist anymore. I don't want to have to write letters to the government when I want to go on holiday and take a gallon of fucking methadone with me. I didn't want to do that, you know. And if other people do that, that's cool, you know what I mean? But for me, it was like, I'd done that. And you know what, actually, substitute prescribing never stopped me using anyway. It was just another habit to get rid of it. At best, having methadone would mean I'd have less chance of getting arrested for shoplifting because I'd be a bit more cautious. You know, when I wake up clucking my bollocks off, you know, with no methadone, I would walk out the door and I'd steal the first thing that fucking I saw. You know what I mean? That was me. So anyway, so that's the using out of the way, thankfully. My recovery has been based in NA. That's for me. That's where I found people that I kind of identified most with. I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm really atheistic. When I'm in a good mood, I'm kind of agnostic. Do you know what? I don't fucking care. I don't pray. I don't meditate. Actually, I do meditate. My meditation this morning was I took my dog, and I live just outside London now in a place called Margate. So I live by the beach. I took my dog and I put my headphones on and I listened to Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols really loudly in my ears. And that was my meditation for this morning, you know, and I felt better for it afterwards. You know, I have friends that have come into recovery, and they have been, let me choose my words carefully here, seduced into religious beliefs by various people. Again, it's kind of none of my business, but I do actually think that the believers in recovery people are a fucking cult, and they should stay the fuck away from our meetings because we're not a religious program, and they seem to have forgotten that. Anyway, that's a bit controversial, but I'm saying it anyway. That's just speaking my truth. So yeah, my recovery is centered in Narcotics Anonymous, because you know what, I like it. Actually, I fucking like it. I like going to meetings. I like hanging out with you lot. You know, I always wanted to be, you know, I was always looking for my tribe. I was always wanting to be in a gang. You know, when I was a really young man, I was like, if I could be in the Clash, everything would be all right. You know, because they're like the coolest gang ever. I could have been in the Clash or the Jam, actually. That we lost on most of my American friends here, but you know, or just the band, just somebody. Just wanted to be with some people that are, you know, we all, or the Ramones, you know, somebody just wanted to be in a tribe. So that's kind of what I like most about being in a fellowship, really. You know, that's what keeps me there, keeps me going to it. I have to say, you know, I've worked 12 Steps a couple of times, and I sponsor a couple of guys that also have the same vaguely atheistic beliefs as myself. They're like fucking brothers to me, really. That's what they are. You know what I mean? Some people call them sponsees. They're like the brothers I never had, you know. And I love them. I absolutely fucking love the fuck out of them so much. You know, one of them, his story makes mine look like a picnic. You know, he spent the last 10 years of his using sat outside a cash machine on the high street, you know, no veins left, no teeth left, nothing. Like one of them guys, you think he's going to die. There's no way this guy's going to live. There's no way. And he did, you know, he's very much alive. And I think one of the, apart from the fact that my own life is infinitely better and how I feel about myself and the world, and that I'm able to, for the most part, conduct myself in a reasonable way. That stuff's really, really good. But I like that. That's been a massive plus, you know. But being, choose my word, being brave enough to form meaningful relationships with other people, because I didn't do that prior to recovery. I kind of, you know, I wasn't honest enough to do that. But being brave enough to really care and love other people, particularly in recovery, because you know what, we're not all going to make it. You know what I mean? We're not all going to make it. So this one of my sponsees, you know, I think of him like a brother, and I took that emotional risk, you know, and I suppose being in recovery has allowed me to take those emotional risks, not just with him. I'm not saying it because she's standing next to me with a knife cutting the potatoes, but my wife's here as well. You know, to have deep, meaningful relationships with people has been a direct result of for me, of being in recovery, doing some of that stuff that's suggested and not using. You know, the final layer of that addictive behavior or being addicted to something was I managed to quit vaping 7 weeks ago. Please, this isn't a judgment on anyone sitting there vaping, right? I really, I quit, and as I said before the meeting, I didn't quit because it saved me money. I didn't quit because I thought it was messing my health up in a bad way. I quit because I'm a 52-year-old man who sings in a rock and roll band, and we're very, very loud, and my voice needs to be looked after. And the vaping thing was drying out my throat, and I couldn't sing, and that's why I quit. No other reason. No other reason at all. It wasn't because, you know, that was it. That was the reason. That was the reason that I needed. You know, it was enough of a reason for me. And I quit. And I've been absolutely fucking insane for the last 2 months, I've got to say. I think it was like 1980. I went into a shop near where I live. So I was 12, and I bought a packet of cigarettes and a music magazine because I decided I was going to be a grown-up, because that's what you do when you're 12. You buy a music magazine and 20 cigarettes. And more or less, I've had nicotine in my system ever since. So to be 7 weeks, it's been, I ain't going to lie, it's been fucking really difficult. Psychologically, it's been really difficult, you know. My moods have gone from my first thought of the day being, oh, just fucking hang yourself, you're a fucking idiot. And then go, actually, that's not true, but almost having to have a dialogue with myself for the first hour of the day to go, you're all right, you're cool, it's fine, you know, just you're not an idiot, don't hang yourself, that would be selfish and stupid, you don't really want to do that. It's eased off a little bit in the last month, I have to say, thank God, because it was getting a bit tedious, you know. Because another thing that I've learned through experience in recovery is that sort of stuff will pass. You know, when we were all taking truckloads of ecstasy over here in England in the late 80s and early 90s, they, as they always do, the government tried to ruin all our fun for us by putting commercials on TV, on the telly. Don't do drugs, kids, it's really bad for you. And we're like, fuck off. And I remember the big scare tactic of the Don't Do Ecstasy campaign was, we don't know what the long-term effects of excessive ecstasy use will be on people, you know. And our answer to that was to take more of it, because, you know, whatever, right? And actually the long-term effect for some people is mental health problems. You know, that's what it is, you know. And guess what? I got it, you know. I found a way to manage it that doesn't involve medication. It does involve listening to Nevermind the Bollocks really loud when I walk my dog. That always helps, you know. Or let me see that, my friend there. My friend Katie B there. I've never met you, Katie, but you've got a Grateful Dead logo up there. I listened to them too. I actually saw them a few times. I saw them in London in 1990. They played for 3.5 hours. It was fucking one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in my life. You know, music is really been my salvation. Right, this is the absolute truth, right? I love Narcotics Anonymous. It saved my life. It's changed my life. It's given me so much. But equally important to me, and equally as restorative to myself and other people, has been music. That's without question in my life in recovery. At the end of my using, I didn't listen to music because I didn't have any CDs or albums left, because I'd fucking sold them all. You know, I lived on the street, so I didn't listen to music. I remember being about 70, 80 days clean, and I went to the pawn shop and I got my CD player, Walkman out, and I was on my way to a meeting and I put a CD in. I don't even know what it was, and it was like, hello, music, you're back in my life. You know, I got a little swagger. I was bowling down the street, you know, kind of giving it the Liam Gallagher kind of thing. And I just felt really, really happy and really, really content. And I hadn't felt like that for fucking years. And I don't even know what the band I was listening to was, but, you know. So music alongside the other stuff, you know, that we do is been so important to me. In the book that I wrote, second plug coming up right there, 21252. So you can get it on Kindle. I write a lot about music, and the more observant reader will know that every chapter is the title of a song, which segues nicely into where I'm at now, because I know I've been going on a little while. So I'm in a band, right, called Hightown Pirates. I don't want to be in another band. I shit you not. If fucking Keith Richards walked round my house tonight and said, look, I've just sacked Mick, do you want to do the gig? I'd be like, no. Right? I wouldn't join the fucking Rolling Stones. I wouldn't join the Hold Steady. I do not want to be in another band, right? And the reason I'm saying that is that tells me that it has been successful. You know, that my musical endeavors for me have been successful. The fact that no one knows who we are and no one really listens to us is actually irrelevant. In the old days, it would have meant everything to me. It would have been really important to have that kind of recognition, because I had no self-esteem of my own. I needed it. I needed other people to say, you're great, or which they didn't say, because I was a junkie scumbag, right? They said you're a fucking junkie scumbag. But you know, my point is that to be clean for 15 years next month, to have gone back into the murky cesspit, otherwise known as the music industry, to record 2 albums, an EP, to be just starting. Look, you can actually, this is vinyl. This is my band on fucking vinyl. How about that? Vinyl. I've got a record player. Sounds amazing. The joys of recovery. That's what that is. You know, and here's the crazy thing. It's not that crazy. Hightown Pirates didn't start out as a sober band. Far from it. A couple of my members at the time were not sober. And you know what? They don't need to be, actually. And so our first album is called Dry and High, because some of us are dry and some of us were high. It got loads of really great reviews over here in England. No one fucking listened to it. No one bought it. And my response to that was to go and make another one, because that's what I've learned here, actually, in recovery. You know, when I woke up junk sick every morning with no money, not using is not you know what, I won't use today because I haven't got any money. Like, that's not an option, right? You just got to get up and you've got to do what you got to do. And you know, we're addicts. We can wake up skint and go to bed with 500 quid's worth of crack in our bloodstream. You know, that's a transferable skill, right? That level of obsessive belief, no matter how destructive it might have been in the past, you can flip that on its head. So Hightown Pirates is now what I do. And I've also just during lockdown written another book. The book is called The Other Side of Nothing, and I would, if you look up the dictionary definition of the word nothing, it says null, void, no prospects. So that's me when I'm a junkie, basically. Null, void with no prospects. The only prospects I have are death or jail. So The Other Side of Nothing is my book about that, about my experiences in recovery. It's not a self-help book. I have rewritten the 12 steps. There's a lot of swearing in my version, and they're quite offensive. That's all right. If you've got a problem with that, talk to your sponsor, as they say. It's just kind of like my take on the first book is that's the mess, right? That's the addiction. That's what kind of, and because I am a published author and I'm out about my previous life and my addiction and my recovery, I kind of felt that I wanted to write a book about recovery in my own particular style of writing, because a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people aren't able to talk about it just because society is still so fucking blinkered that, you know, if I went, God forbid, had to go and apply for a job in a bank next week, and they said to me, hey, Mr. Mason, what were you doing between 1986 and 2006? And I said, mainly heroin. I ain't getting the job. Do you know what I mean? Just, I'm not getting the fucking job, no matter that it's 15 years down the line. Because we're still stigmatized. You know, we're still stigmatized as, yeah, you lot, sooner or later. You know, I know for a fact that there are people who I've pissed off along the way, waiting for me to fucking relapse. As fucked up as that sounds, you know, there are some people that were like, yeah, he's so unspiritual, he's bound to relapse, he hasn't got God, he's going to fucking end up using it. Well, you know what, people, fuck you. I'm not. You know, I'm not. I'm busy. My friend is about to walk past here in a minute. He's not going to say hello. He's far too cool for that. It's called Tom. He's going to say hello.
Hello.
Tom is the new guitarist in Hightown Pirates. He's 14 months sober. He's never been in a sober band. And we start rehearsals in a couple of days' time. That's Tom, everybody. He's amazing. And so what Hightown Pirates has become, apart from being the best rock and roll band in the world that you've never heard of, is I want to give musicians an opportunity to be in a sober band and in early recovery and get out and play and go back into that world and feel safe and feel that, you know, we got you. You know, if he stays for a year and goes off and does something else, that's fine. You know, I want him to stay forever. Of course I do, because I'm terribly codependent. But that's really what we're about now. It's about spreading that message that, you know, for some of us, our creative journey won't really begin in earnest until we stop using. Now, you know, most of my records in my record collection are made by people absolutely off their cake on fucking drugs. You know, we're not having a debate about one is better than the other. What we're trying to say is that for those of us that do have to become abstinent, and that's not everybody, but for those of us that do, you might actually find that as a creative person, you do your best work sober. That's been my experience. You know, that's been my experience anyway. And that's kind of what we're about. And I'm going to wrap it up now. So we released another album last year. That one, I've Been Waving at You, Dry and High, that came out a few years ago. And then last year, in fact, a year ago yesterday, we released an album called All of the Above. And it was made entirely with musicians that were sober, clean, in a studio which is run by two people that are clean. It has a picture of my daughter on the front. It was released digitally. It's on streaming platforms and Bandcamp and all that sort of stuff. And I made it because three of my closest friends had died. They'd all relapsed and died in the space of a few months. And they were musicians, and I fucking missed them. And I wanted to do something in their memory, right? And so I wrote this album. We recorded it. It came out a year ago. And it was always my intention to have it pressed up onto vinyl, because I'm old school and I like stuff on vinyl. I like the sound of vinyl. Anyway, it took me a while to hustle up the money to get it pressed onto vinyl. But a couple of weeks ago, I got a test pressing from the production plant. So they press it onto vinyl. They send you a couple of, just to make sure all sounds are all right. And then you go, that sounds great. And then they manufacture the remaining 300, right? So I got an email saying the test pressing's on the way. It will be delivered to your flat this afternoon. So I'm sat outside the flat waiting for the guy to deliver this test pressing because I want to hear it. It was as exciting as waiting for my dealer to turn up back in the day, you know. Like I was sat on the steps outside my flat, and I live in this square, and I saw this truck kind of pulling up. There he is. Oh fuck, it's not, bastard, it's not him, you know, that, you know, when you saw every car's got your dealer in it, right? Because he's 2 minutes away and you're waiting. It was as exciting as that, waiting for this vinyl. It was as exciting as being 11 years old when I first bought my first record from a record shop and running home to put it on and play it. It had the same excitement to it, completely unadulterated, clean and sober, 52 years old, feeling like a kid waiting for this piece of vinyl to come back, which had this album that we'd written and performed on it. And I sat down and I thought to myself, you know, why would I want to start using again? That, you know, I asked myself that question. Do I have a reason? No, I don't. I also have a 13-year-old daughter who has never seen me use or drink. So on another level, I think I've lost the privilege to even try, really, because if it went wrong, which it would, she's not going to have a dad, you know. So that just be fucking selfish. But on a lighter note, you know, I just acknowledge that's to be able to feel that happy and that excited about getting a test pressing of an album that I've written, that no one's going to fucking listen to. That's real progress for me. You know, that's a nice way to be, and that's a nice way to finish my rant, because I realise I have had a bit of a rant. I don't know if any of that has offended you. Tough shit. If it's made you laugh, I'm happy. I love you all, really. Well, actually, I don't. Probably no. I'd like to think that I could potentially love you all, but I probably wouldn't, and you probably wouldn't love me, and that's cool. Anyway, that's me. I'm going to shut up.
I wanna take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Till I get some money in my pocket, then I guess just have to walk around the neighborhood. But I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. Wanna be good so bad. That desire's all I ever had. Wanna take a ride up in the sky. Watch as aeroplanes just pass me by. Wanna see it live, gelato take a dive. Show all of these people what it means to be alive. I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. Wanna be good so bad. That desire's all I ever had. My shadow's getting smaller and smaller, and it's hiding where I stand. Shadows getting smaller and smaller, it's hiding where I stand. I wonder would it pay any mind? Leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far away.